A sudden, piercing shriek tore through the dense forest, cutting short the night's eerie silence. Detective Harding, a man whose face carried the weight of 1,000 unsolved cases, slammed his palm against the crime scene tape. Rain lashed down, mingling with the fresh blood on the forest floor, blurring the lines of a tragedy that would haunt him for decades. The young woman, Sarah Jenkins, lay lifeless, a single, ornate locket clutched in her hand. The town of Havenwood reeled, a tight-knit community suddenly fractured by terror and suspicion. Days bled into weeks, weeks into months, but every lead dissolved into dead ends. Sarah's family, once vibrant and full of hope, withered under the relentless glare of unanswered questions. Her parents, especially, aged before their time, their laughter replaced by a silence more profound than the forest itself. The locket, a gift from her childhood sweetheart, Mark, offered no clues, only a poignant reminder of a love abruptly extinguished. The case grew colder with each passing year, a chilling monument to injustice, a festering wound in the heart of Havenwood. Everyone had theories, hushed whispers in grocery store aisles, but no one had answers, and no one dared to speak definitively. 30 years later, a tremor of unease rippled through the quiet life of Alara Vance. Her days were a meticulous dance of routines, a carefully constructed facade to bury a past she desperately tried to forget. She was a woman of quiet habits, her eyes often distant, as if constantly reliving a shadow play. Each morning, the local newspaper thumped onto her porch, and each morning, she scanned it with a familiar dread, specifically searching for any mention of the Jenkins case. For 3 decades, the memory of that night, that scream, that secret, had been a suffocating weight. She tried to outrun it, burying herself in a life far removed from Havenwood, but some ghosts refused to stay buried. A nagging cough had recently worsened, a persistent rasp that seemed to mirror the unease in her soul, reminding her that time was not on her side. She'd promised herself silence, had sworn to protect someone, but the cost of that silence was now eating her alive. The escalating fear wasn't just for herself, but for a truth that deserved to be heard. One blustery October morning, a small article caught her eye, Havenwood police re-examining cold cases, Sarah Jenkins' case mentioned. Her breath hitched. The words, though few, struck her like a physical blow. Her hands trembled, spilling her morning tea. That same day, a young, eager journalist, Chloe Davis, from a true crime podcast, visited Havenwood, stirring up old memories. Chloe had a knack for uncovering forgotten details, and her inquiries, though polite, were unnervingly close to Alara's buried truth. Alara overheard a snippet of Chloe's interview with an aging townsman. They say Alara Vance was with Sarah that night, but she moved away shortly after. Never said a word. The walls Alara had built around her past began to crumble. The cough intensified, a painful reminder of her dwindling time. The promise she'd made, a desperate vow to a terrified young boy, felt like a chain around her heart. It was a choice between her lifelong burden and a chance, however slim, at redemption, at peace for Sarah. The escalating pressure, both internal and external, finally cracked her resolve. She had to speak. Alara's decision sent shockwaves through the Havenwood Police Department. Detective Harding, now retired, but still haunted by Sarah's case, sat across from her in a stark interview room. His skepticism was palpable. Why now, Alara? 30 years. Why after all this time? Alara's voice was hoarse, each word a struggle. Because I can't. I can't carry it anymore. And because he's still out there, isn't he? She spoke of that night, not as a distant memory, but as if it were happening all over again. Her voice, initially weak, gained strength as the truth spilled out. Sarah and we were at the old mill. We saw him. John Thorne. He was arguing with someone, shouting. He had something in his hand, a wrench. Harding leaned forward, his pen scratching furiously. John Thorne? He was Sarah's friend. Mark's cousin. Nobody ever suspected him. Alara nodded, tears streaming down her face. He saw us. He chased us. I ran. I hid. Sarah, she tried to talk to him. I heard a struggle. And then, nothing. Just the rain. I saw him leave, wiping something from his hands. He found me later, threatened me. Said he'd hurt my family if I ever spoke. Her confession painted a terrifying picture of betrayal, not just of friendship, but of trust, of the town's very fabric. The initial investigation had focused on Mark, Sarah's heartbroken boyfriend, whose alibi, though weak, had been accepted due to his grief. Thorne had been above suspicion, a pillar of the community, seemingly devastated by the loss. Harding, with renewed vigor, brought Alara's testimony to the current cold case unit. They cross-referenced Alara's details with the original files. Thorne had an alibi, a fishing trip with his elderly uncle. But Alara's account described a specific, ornate wrench. The original evidence log mentioned a specialized wrench found near the scene, dismissed as construction debris. A shocking plot twist began to unravel. They re-interviewed Thorne's uncle, who, with age, had become more lucid, or perhaps, simply less afraid. "John left me by the lake that night," the uncle mumbled, his memory rekindled by the detective's persistent questions. "Said he had a late-night delivery for the mill. Didn't come back until dawn." The old alibi, once ironclad, now had a gaping hole. This new revelation sent investigators scrambling. They pulled old bank records, property deeds. Thorne, a struggling mechanic at the time, had suddenly acquired a significant sum of money shortly after Sarah's murder. A frantic search began. Thorne, now a prominent businessman in a nearby city, was oblivious to the renewed heat on his past. He maintained a meticulously curated public image, a pillar of his new community. The hunt was on. Detectives swarmed Thorne's lavish office, his sprawling estate. He was apprehended, bewildered, denying everything. "This is ridiculous. 30 years. I was fishing. My uncle can vouch for me." But the carefully constructed lies began to buckle under the weight of Alara's detailed testimony and the re-examined forensic evidence. The wrench, once dismissed, was now identified as a unique tool used for a specific piece of machinery at the old mill, machinery only Thorne had access to at the time. Further investigation unearthed a secret affair, Thorne and Sarah. A clandestine relationship, fueled by Sarah's youthful rebellion and Thorne's manipulative charm. Sarah had been planning to expose him, to tell Mark, to end the betrayal. She had threatened to reveal his financial impropriety connected to the mill. The motive crystallized, not just rage, but a desperate act to protect his reputation and his fragile financial schemes. The dramatic turns were relentless. Thorne's wife, a quiet woman he had married years after Sarah's death, came forward with a diary, a discovery she made cleaning out her husband's old workshop. In it, scribbled entries detailing his rage, his fear of exposure, and a chilling confession dated the very night of Sarah's murder. She knew too much. Had to silence her. Nobody saw. The courtroom was packed, a sea of faces eager for closure. Alara, frail but resolute, faced Thorne, her eyes locked on his. She recounted her story, her voice unwavering, each word a testament to the years of silent suffering. Thorne, once arrogant, crumbled under the relentless pressure of the evidence, the diary, and the weight of Alara's unwavering gaze. The jury returned a guilty verdict, and the room erupted. Justice, delayed for 30 years, had finally arrived. For Sarah's parents, the verdict was a bittersweet balm. They held each other, tears of sorrow and relief mingling. The void could never be filled, but the answer, the truth, offered a fragile peace. Alara, watching them, felt a lightness she hadn't known in decades. The cough was still there, but the burden on her soul was gone. She had honored Sarah, and in doing so, had found her own form of redemption. The silence of Havenwood was finally broken, replaced not by forgotten whispers, but by the echoes of a truth that demanded to be heard, a story of an unexpected witness whose courage, against all odds, cracked the coldest of cases. If this gripping tale of justice found has captivated you, imagine the stories yet untold. Don't let another moment of compelling narrative slip by. Subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and share your thoughts in the comments below. What part of Alara's journey moved you the most?